This panel is speaking on Saccos versus banks. And I feel it's a bit unfair because this is 4 versus 1. Really, who planned this? But I didn't know that there was competition between Saccos and banks. It's always been a very clear niche of what exactly a Sacco is and what exactly banks offer. Where is this overlap? And when we look at technology specifically, as we introduce ourselves, maybe starting from the far end, Saitoti, you can just tell us what are some of the technologies that are emerging today that you're leveraging to be competitive as a Sacco?
Okay, thank you for that. I think, it's a competition that people are looking into. Is it Saccos or is it banks? But also, from what we have been able to do as a sector is from the point of how do we maintain our customers.
Okay.
And that brought in the issue of, can we move into technology to be able to maintain the customers?
Mm-hmm.
We are moving from the point where the customer is used to come to the banking hall,
Mm-hmm.
because we are dealing with customers who are very loyal to the Sacco. We are dealing with the customers who want to put a face to who they are serving. But, with this disruption, the Sacco also had to pull back and ask themselves, how can we maintain our customers?
Mm-hmm.
So we have seen Saccos adopting even CRM, this is customer relationship management, so that we can be able to understand issues as they come in and be able to understand, serve our customers better. Even other high-end Saccos are now moving into customer data platforms, which we can be able to look at, the behavior of a query that has come into the Sacco. Just to mention a few, I think I will just end it up there, allow the panelists to bring in others.
All right, CRM it is for you. How about you, Peter?
Thank you. My name is Peter Wafula. I am from Rambe Sacco. Enough introduction. Basically, technologies are really growing within the Sacco sectors, and we find that with the introduction of the mobile and the Gen Zs within the Saccos, because initially Saccos used to have the previous speakers have just said that Saccos used to have the old people that they cannot even interact with the systems, they prefer lining, but with the introduction of technologies, you find that, and I think this is an evidence to almost all the Saccos that recently even the dividend pay is easier, it's done seamlessly. Members are just informed by the messages that your dividends is there. You can do whatever you want with it, unlike the days that members used to come and line for the dividends. So the technology has changed. And even the communication, because you find that most of members nowadays are outside the country or not within where they can reach a branch. But because with the introduction of the WhatsApp, the chat portals, and all these other technologies,
Mm-hmm.
you find it's easy that members can even apply for loans from their diaspora's positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Winnie?
Representing the minority gender in the panel, my name is Winnie Sergon. I head the ICT department at Boresha Sacco, which is a deposit-taking Sacco regulated by SASRA. What I would say is that understanding the various customer segments that you have really says that you have to deliver to them what they want differently. That's why you'll find a mix of both technology-driven and the old form kind of style where they feel at home.
Mm-hmm.
These segments have to be treated differently at different times. You saw a same generation this morning, one mentioning they want to go on holiday. So what kind of products are they qualified for? The same person within the same bracket mentioning of investing or getting a loan to do something. So when you look at the mix, you cannot say there's a product of one fits all. However, we have to diversify, we have to understand and make sure that the service delivery is reached at all points. In addition, what has made the Saccos stand out is the reachability or their geographical presence. Recently, the agenda, the bottom-up transformation agenda talked about the Hustler Fund. And they said totally it's going to be digital. How has it impacted? How has it reached? Some of them might not be a product that has been taken by the intended people. Why? Because of the mix that could have missed out, which we are not saying is a bad thing. However, it might discriminate some segments. And that's why the Saccos is a blend of both. And they have had their presence in very remote places. And I'll quote one where we serve. We are the only bank there. We are the only financial institution at Tiati, which is in Baringo County. The place that is really totally underbanked because of the geographical distribution and maybe the economic activities. We have a physical branch presence there, which no bank could have really thought there's a community there. And I'll say that their dynamics are very interesting. They are good bankers. And that way also the banks have leveraged on our presence there through their agency, POSs and the rest to reach out to them. So as much as the Sacco is there to win, the bank is also benefiting from the win through partnerships, and it's something that cannot be divided at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Sami?
Thanks, Becky. Thanks, everyone. My name is Sami Nyambu from Mwalimu National. Looking at the topic, basically, I don't think that's a fair way of looking at it, in my opinion, in terms of who is winning and who is not winning. I think how I'd want to look at it is the fundamentals of how each model basically has been built. So if you look at the Sacco model from its very onset, it's a model that basically had a common bond from the very beginning. So it formed like a member club of like-minded people coming together for financial benefits in terms of improving their financial status. And basically, how again the model was structured then was, it was much more geographical. Those were the days you'd see a Sacco, Baringo Teachers Sacco. So the geography in itself confined who was to join the Sacco. The common bond defined who was to join a Sacco. By and by, what we are seeing is that this model basically is kind of changing. Saccos are opening up the common bond. Most of the Saccos in the room, I'm sure, no longer have common bonds. So the ability for anybody to join a Sacco is then there. Basically, the ability for Saccos then to move from Baringo Teachers to Boresha. Now we are seeing most of those Saccos transforming and being able to allow and showing a global or a more wide geographical space. So as this is happening, we come back now to our discussion. We then also see a lot of technology coming into Saccos. And this is where I think it was a big differentiator. You could differentiate Saccos from banks in terms of how much investments the banks are done around technology. You'd see how effective and efficient banks were thanks and courtesy to technology. This again, we are seeing Saccos trying to bridge the gap. And one of the speakers in the morning basically said, technology then is blurring that line. And that's where now we get to see how then the Saccos are leveraging on this appropriate technology to create efficiency, to be effective in what they are doing, in terms of now informing their products and their services and how they are serving their members. So back to the question again, I think I like what Janet said as a way of concluding this, is that then it's not who is winning. I think it's about then how best do we partner, how best do we identify areas that Saccos are strong in and the banks have some advantage on, and then create some synergies, basically to have a win-win situation. That's how maybe I want to look at it.
All right. Thanks, Ami. It feels like you're trying to wrap up this panel already. But I agree with all of you that this is more a collaborative effort. Each has its own niche, and therefore we leverage on what are our strengths and work together to deliver the best value to our customers. With that in mind, I like what you've said about the changing of the customer. There's this perception we have that it's only our parents and our age and older who are members of Saccos. So how are you leveraging technology to target Gen Zs and Gen Ys to make sure that they are also willing to come and on board as a Sacco member? Winnie?
Thank you. Delivery of service through the most preferred mode is the only way to target the young generation and availing what they need at that time. What they rely on most, or what we really forget and we realize that we are paralyzed, is the phone. So service delivery through apps, self-onboarding, self-appraisal for loans, or having digital products is what has really tried to make sure that we have the generation, that one. And they don't like guarantorship, honestly. And they don't like to save, they like to spend. So it's a blend that requires a lot of dedication in terms of education, training, and awareness, because as the name suggests, Saccos, it's a savings and a credit institution. You cannot come in today, we do your KYC, and move out with money tomorrow. We train the culture of savings, which is the most difficult lesson for someone who has recently earned. It might look simple to say, but before you build a habit of savings within yourself, before it becomes part of you, it's really an uphill task. So having the digital platform where you encourage them to save digitally at will, not necessarily depending on the pay slip, and using the technology of M-Pesa, anytime you can deposit, and allowing them to take a loan anytime with what they have saved, and having a multiplier around it is what has really encouraged them to join a lot. And number two, we also use the member refer member. If I am a member, we always tell our members to be marketers automatically through the word of mouth, whereby I will convince better when I'm seated with you and I tell you the benefits of what a Sacco does. Most of the population don't understand what Saccos does, what it stands for, and how they were formed for them to be in where they are at the moment. So that is the other aspect that we realize, that the onboarding process requires a lot of patience, requires a lot of teaching, requires a lot of conversion from that person to understand that it's not just about the money passing through your account and getting to your needs. It's a matter of learning how to save over a period of time. And that's why Madaraka Day, 1st of June this year, the agenda that the government is trying to push is to see how the savings culture can be inculcated into the Kenyan fraternity. So why is this becoming a national agenda? It's because it's a very, very contagious topic that has to be passed down, and if possible, even introduced into the curriculum, so that at least people learn how to save before they spend. And if that can be put in place, then we can be better financial planners. Thank you.
Thanks, Winnie. You know, when you talk about the government and encouraging saving, I'm not too sure whether they have our interest at heart, but that will be for the panel for government versus our savings. Peter, my father has never actually used his mobile banking app at all. He's still keen to go to a banking branch. How are you making sure that the older or old school customer is still being served through the digital channels in an operationally and efficient way? Because those old school ways of serving customers are a bit expensive and less efficient. How are you trying to encourage them to cross over to the digital side?
Basically, the old is gold, as we all say. It's true, and we still need these customers as much as they are going to be there with us maybe into the next 2 or 3 or 1 year. But what we are trying to do is that, and even my grandmother at home currently has a mobile phone. There's called Simu ya Jamii. That's that one. So we try to emphasize on the USSD that we try to send them SMSs, some promotional SMSs that we know basically they read, and most of these guys we capture them like on their birthdays, on their anniversaries, because we have their next of kin details. We try to remind them that this is the anniversary of your wife, or your anniversary is on this date, and we try to engage them on that digital platform and ensuring that they get find some attachment to their phones. Once they get that, so we have introduced mobile USSD codes that basically most of the products are now rolled over to the portal, such that they can easily access. For instance, like the last time that we were doing our dividends, you find that most of them, that age, would prefer using their phones to get their money. So it's working for us, and then trying to encourage them. At the same time, we also look into the Gen Zs and try to see how we capture them. We find that, like in our case, we have even created some promotions. For instance, below 30 trip to Dubai, and these are the guys that are saving on a daily basis that they need a trip to Dubai, and this is much. We try to capitalize it on social media. We try to make good use of the infrastructure that we have. To ensure that this is it captures that kind of generation. While this on the other end, we don't forget about them. We still do them the anniversaries, the birthdays, so trying to make them so that they are always on their phone that, yes, I think I am supposed to get a text, or I'm waiting for a text for this. So they are on toes and they are attached with us.
Okay. That's good to hear that there's tailoring just driven towards the specific customer and their expectations. I like that you're talking about all these self-onboarding, USSD channels, and digital platforms. Saitoti, how are you leveraging security into the technology to ensure that these platforms are not a vulnerability to the Sacco?
I agree. Security is a buzzword that always has to be seen along innovation. And yes, for sure, from the news, is not only affecting Saccos. I think the entire financial sector, security is becoming a concern. And I think previous speakers have mentioned things to do with, try to do security by design. The systems that you're bringing into the place, if before you bring this particular system, what security controls are you putting them? For online channels, again, what security are you building in around those innovation? But just to mention a few, we have seen Saccos going to MSSP. Seriano was here, and they can attest that they are actually onboarding quite a number of Saccos. And also from a regulator perspective, we have seen frameworks coming down. Make sure you have a firewall, make sure you have a fraud detection and all that. So it is something that is coming from a strategy point of view, coming down into how we are implementing. Still a long way to go because cyberspace is changing, and data privacy, data protection policy is coming in. So we still have a way to go from a regulator perspective and also from the Sacco level. But to talk of ABCs of cybersecurity, quite a number of Saccos have adopted them. It's not that they are just there and they are not doing anything. You find that quite a number of them have implemented controls even within their systems. So what really happens is from the point of third party, and you can say maybe a few Sacco news is through third parties. So I think that is the area that we need to tighten our belt to make sure that we are protecting the members' interests.
True. Sami, anything to add to that on security?
Really nothing much, but basically to just re-emphasize the fact that in most instances, more instances than not, is that security comes like an afterthought after a certain initiative has been taken. But I totally agree with what Kevin has said and what Joseph from Seriano has said. Security needs to be part and parcel of whatever initiatives around the technology transformation, the digital transformation that we have in terms of strategy.
Yeah. And I think here...
And just to add on security, I think also it has taken also the service providers, the fintech companies, the like that try to provide us with the platforms, the mobile apps, and all those platforms that are digital, to ensure that their systems are in a manner that is well secured and controls are in place. We see this with the likes of Skyworld and the rest that deals in this field, and Eclectics, to ensure that they partnered with the security guys like just mentioned Safaricom and Seriano, to ensure that these are met as the moment that they are trying to connect the APIs to the core banking systems of a particular cycles. And that has really helped in ensuring that because these are the most platforms that are more vulnerable for such kind of threats.
All right. I think one of the things I wanted to just highlight there is on the regulator bit that Saitoti mentioned. I think even on the banking side, this has always proven to be a big hurdle where regulator is coming in after. Same thing, security is only being considered as an afterthought, and this is somewhere where both the banks and Saccos may need to pull up our socks and collaborate more keenly with the relevant stakeholders so that we are moving together and it's not coming in as an afterthought when incidents have already happened. Just moving on to the next bit on where we are looking in the future, what are emerging technologies or what are new things that Saccos are likely to do in the near future or in the distant future, just with the way the world is shaping now? Sami?
Basically, again, thanks to say banks, just putting the discussion in context, Saccos have something to benchmark on with. Basically, in terms of technology, banks for sure have invested so much around that space. So it's not really something that Saccos need to really have to think really hard, because banks are already there, banks are already taking some lead. But to be specific, some of the areas that Saccos can really take advantage of, and it was discussed here in the morning, is around analytics. I think this is an area that provides a lot of space for Saccos to really do a lot around there. And I think partly is with Joel, basically there was a lot that was discussed there. Definitely again around strengthening our core systems. I think what we are seeing with Saccos right now is that the business is growing. The business is transforming, again, back to benchmarking and road mapping with the banks. We are trying to see so much that Saccos are doing today in the next few years will do even what banks are doing. Central Liquidity Fund is here with us. Card management would be here with us. Today we are riding on banks in terms of basically what Janet was trying to say here. But maybe that would be able to change, that Saccos are able to do it on their own. So strengthening of the core systems becomes quite an important area that we ought to also look at. So For me, I think analytics would be very interesting to see then how do we use our data to better our operations and our services.
Anything else we need to add?
Just to add, mine will be a little bit on the workforce. Where are we getting our income to save? Where are we getting our income to spend? And when you look at the current workforce, when you're seated in this room, if I ask a question of, do you know anyone who has moved out of Kenya to work elsewhere, abroad, you'll find out that everyone knows someone who is preparing to leave, who left in the last 1 year, or who are planning to leave the country. What does that mean? We also have to look at how we can be able to tap fully to the diaspora migration of workforce to continue sustaining their savings and their economic activities in the country, and that requires adoption of technology that can cut across the geographical borders so that we can continue being in business. So that requires what Sami has mentioned, analytics, a lot of artificial intelligence and cross-border opening up so that we can be able to continue serving these kind of people. Thank you.
Thanks. I think one last thing I would want to ask is, there's a lot of war of talent amongst the banks. With all the new niche areas of technology, you find security team members are on demand, so they are being poached by one bank to another. Is that happening in the Saccos space, or how is the dynamics on the talent war going on in the Saccos space, just as we close? Peter, then Saitoti.
It's not only in the bank or in the Saccos, but it's anywhere that people deals with securities and all that. And this is because initially information security was not something that was put as a priority, as even when the business is trying to go out for strategic management plan, the IT security would be just there. They are not to bring any input. But as the business tries to align themselves into digitization of product and services, the IT security has become a necessity to the strategic plan of every organization. So you find that these people are hot tech, yes. And basically, you find they here today, they are there today, and not only.
Is that a sign that our time is up?
Yeah, I think so. Not only in the Saccos, but in all financial institutions, this is happening, and it's going to happen more because we are trying to digitize, and these guys, the hackers, are already there, waiting for us on the platforms to ensure that whatever is there on the platform, it's dealt with accordingly. So these guys are very key, and they move places. They might not move from Sacco to Sacco, but you will find that maybe they move from Saccos to bank.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Just in few is if you look at change management, Saccos are being disrupted in terms of skills, because the board will say we want to get away of the siloed mindset, because is it even stopping transformation from happening? So we are bringing in a lot of digital innovations, but again, how are we securing it? We can't just plug in an application and leave it there. It needs to be monitored. But that siloed mindset, that siloed server, that siloed part has to get rid of. So it's just a matter of time, either you innovate or you die. So it's still there. Thank you.
And I like what you're saying, because I recently listened to a podcast where they were talking about a fintech that's offering specifically credit facilities to farmers, because that's a space where most people are not keen to get into, both banks and Saccos. We've seen that agriculture, no one wants to risk too much giving loans to someone who you're not sure whether they'll get produce from their farms. And this fintech is keen to do that, exactly that. So in closing, I just want to say that it's no longer banks versus Saccos, really. The competition is coming from anywhere you can imagine. So it's up to us to stay competitive. It's up to us to continuously innovate and think how we can deliver more and better value to customers. Thank you all for your time. I think we'll wrap it up there. If there's any burning questions, feel free to reach out to our panelists directly because we're out of time. Thank you.